Here's how to minimize the risk of injury from running. I know so many of you are now looking at running as a way to stay fit whilst we're at this part of the outbreak. And a lot of you have never ran before, or you have taken a long break from running, or maybe you are already a runner. But however or at whatever stage you're at with your running, there are always things to learn when it comes to minimizing the risk of injuring yourself. So if we look at where most injuries come from, especially in something as physical and body taxing as running, you're looking at a lot of injuries that stem from the hips. The reason being, there are so many muscles in the body. I can't remember the exact number right now, but a lot of these muscles, they attach at the hip, or they attach or cross the hip. So if your hips are out of whack being not in their ultimate or optimum condition and position as well, then those muscles that cross and attach at the hip can't function as well as they'd like to. They aren't able to contract and release and relax in the best possible positions and directions and forces, and therefore that then has a knock-on effect to your running, or rather it's the ongoing and repetitive nature of running that can ultimately lead to injury. So if you think of your hips as a puppet, right? A puppet on a string. If the puppet is held up well and in the perfect condition, I imagine you've got 4 sticks, right? And at the top or at the end of each stick, you've got a piece of string, and that dangles down and that holds up the puppet. If your hips are in healthy condition, those strings of the puppet are in the optimum position, and therefore the bits that it holds on to, i.e. your legs that are dangling off your hips, they are in optimum condition and position, and therefore your muscles that are attached at the hip and across the hip, they can function smoothly, all right? But the second your hip health is impaired in some way, shape or form, i.e. there's some kind of tilt forwards or back, sideways, or there's some issue that causes your hips to be out of whack, out of optimal condition and position, this means that those muscles and joints that come off the hips don't work as well. Hamstrings that may feel tight are actually just a condition of the fact that your hips are in a certain way, or maybe thighs feel tight. That is not actually the thigh is tight. It's more to do with how, again, your hip function is working or not working. So that's the main reason why so many injuries, running injuries specifically, stem from the hip. So when it comes to wanting to reduce the risk of injury from the hip, you want to look at your hip health ultimately. You want to look at hip alignment. You want to look at spinal alignment and body position, body posture. This is why posture is one of the key areas that you can very quickly improve and therefore have positive results on your running by simply looking at your posture, by improving your posture. And your posture comes from not just standing up tall, but it comes from intrinsic strength in and around your torso, i.e. all of the muscles that wrap around your spine and your torso and hold you into position, okay? So one true way of improving your strength as a runner and minimizing the risk of injury is to actually look at core strength, okay? So one is core strength. The second, as we've covered, is hip mobility and strength. And thirdly is, like, more specifically, thinking about warming up as well before your runs. So many people before they step out for a run, they're literally putting their trainers on, kit on, out of the door, bang, they're going for a hard run straight away, as opposed to getting heat into muscles and joints before then going for your run. It's much better to get the body up to temperature, right temperature, so that the muscles are nice and limbered up and ready. The brain and the synapses are ready in terms of the brain telling the bits of the body to get ready to move in the way that you want it to when it's running. And joints work much better as well when they're limbered up because of the synovial fluid that's around most of the synovial joints that you have, where there's a capsule and then there's like liquid around the capsule and around the joint. And when you're cold, that liquid is very thick and the joints don't quite move as well. Whereas when you have warm joints, that liquid becomes more runny and therefore it's more lubricated and easier for you to run. Okay, so that's the importance of a warm-up in terms of helping you to minimize the risk of injury, because then you're not spending the first 5-10 minutes or % of your run warming up. You're already warm and then you can just enjoy it. It's no wonder that, you know, the more intense the run or the event or the session is going to be, the more warm-up you're going to need. That's why sprinters who are only sprinting for, say, 100 meters, they spend hour and a half warming up before their main event. So the more intense it's going to be, the more need there is for you to warm up. So they're the key 3 areas that I would look at when it comes to minimizing your risk of injury from running. 1, core strength. 2, hip mobility and function and health and alignment. And 3 is getting a good warm-up.